Mein Name ist Laura, ich bin Hebamme.
My name is Laura and I am a midwife. Your baby has finally been born. Now the postnatal period begins.
Familien zu Hause. Dein Baby ist endlich geboren. Nun beginnt die Zeit des Wochenbetts.
In the next 6 to 8 weeks, you should take it easy as much as possible and lie down a lot, because there are many different processes that take place in your body. The uterus becomes smaller again, your hormone balance changes and your metabolism adapts. Depending on where and how your baby was born, you will spend the first 3 to 4 days after the birth in hospital or in a birthing center. After that, a midwife will come to your home. She will support you with breastfeeding, show you how to care for your baby, answer your questions, take the baby's weight and observe the child's development.
Und beobachtet die Entwicklung des Kindes.
Today it is assumed that a person's ability to relate to others is strongly influenced by the first contacts after birth. Today's research assumes that you cannot spoil a baby too much at the beginning of its life. We therefore recommend that all parents not leave the baby to cry alone in its room. Carry the child around as much as possible and have lots of physical contact.
Das Kind herumzutragen und viel Körperkontakt zu haben.
There are no specific recommendations on when to go outside for the first time after birth. If it feels good, you can already go for a short walk for a few minutes outside during the first week after the birth.
Oder für einen Spaziergang nach draußen gehen.
Exercise and fresh air is good for the whole family. You can also carry your baby outside in a sling or baby carrier. This will further strengthen your bond after the birth of your baby. Try to get as much rest as possible. It is now important that you can recharge your batteries. Your baby will sometimes be awake during the night and you may not be able to sleep as much. Therefore, try to adjust your rhythm to that of your baby. In other words, sleep during the day too, just as your baby does. Don't dress your baby too warmly at night. Make sure it's no warmer than 26 degrees in the room. Simply dress your child in one more layer than you are wearing. Don't put any toys in the cot and make sure that nothing is at the height of your child's head.
Ein Schlafsack ist auch besser geeignet als eine Decke, weil dies nicht über das Gesicht des Kindes rutschen kann.
If your baby sleeps in bed with you, which they probably want to do, make sure that no blanket or pillow can fall on their face. In the first 6 weeks after the birth, your body still needs special protection. Protect your abdominal muscles and try to lean to one side to stand up. Do not carry more than your baby's weight. Avoid movements that cause impact on the pelvic floor, such as jogging or jumping. Try to walk slowly and lie down a lot. Only wear pads and not tampons. Change your pads regularly every 3 to 4 hours. And very important, wash your intimate area with water only, without soap or perfumed products. In the first few days, the bleeding is red and still quite heavy. During the first week, this changes and becomes brownish in color. It then turns a pale yellowish color until it stops completely after 4 to 6 weeks. The bleeding comes from the place where the placenta was attached. After the birth, your uterus will still protrude approximately to your belly button and disappear completely into your pelvis by around day 14. Your pelvic floor closes down the pelvis and supports your organs. Another important function of the pelvic floor is continence. This means that you don't just lose urine or stool but have control over it. A healthy and strong pelvic floor also contributes to a pleasurable sexuality. The birth and the last few weeks of pregnancy put a lot of strain on the pelvic floor and it now needs to recover. There are various exercises that you can do to support recovery and the pelvic floor. It is very important, even with your first child, to start a postnatal exercise program after 6 to 8 weeks at a postnatal gym or to do regular exercises at home. In the exercises chapter there is a postnatal yoga video. This will help you to prevent incontinence in later life or even a prolapse of the uterus. You may have had to have stitches in the perineum or vagina after giving birth. These are usually stitches that dissolve by themselves. Even with a cesarean section, the stitches dissolve by themselves. Sometimes staples are also used, which can be removed by the midwife at home. To ensure good wound healing, it is important that you take it easy and lie down a lot. Do not sit cross-legged, but keep your legs narrow and side by side. Avoid putting pressure on the perineal injury or the cesarean section. We do not recommend the sitting ring anymore, which means you may have to eat or breastfeed in a lying down or half-sitting position for the first few days. It is also advisable to cool the wounds. It is normal for the wounds to itch and you may feel pressure. But if they should suddenly become painful and leak secretions, or they open up, contact your midwife. If you suddenly have heavy bleeding again or bleeding that smells bad or you have a fever or chills, contact your midwife or gynecologist.
Hast du Fieber oder Schüttelfrost? Sind es auch Zeichen, dich bei deiner Hebamme oder Gynäkologin zu melden. Wenn du aufs WC gehst, benutze eine Spülflasche.
When you go to the toilet, use a flush bottle with water. You can also use a normal plastic bottle. It may be that bowel movements are a little difficult in the first few days, that you are constipated or that it hurts when you go to the toilet. To protect the injuries and the pelvic floor, you should avoid being constipated and having to push hard.
Achte darauf, dass du viel trinkst.
Make sure that you drink a lot, 2 to 3 liters, and eat a balanced diet. The following can help: dried figs, magnesium, linseed, and legumes. Talk to your midwife about this. She may also have other tips. In the first few days after the birth, the breast produces the calorie-rich, viscous, yellowish colostrum. After 3 to 4 days, the thin, white breast milk is produced. During this process, the breast can swell considerably, become hard, and sometimes cause pain. This is the milk letdown phase. This usually subsides after a few days. If your breasts are very tight and hot, you can provide relief by applying heat before breastfeeding and cooling after breastfeeding to provide relief. You can find out more about this in the video Breastfeeding. After the birth, your hormones change and this can also affect your mood. Sometimes you wake up happy, at lunchtime you are sad, then in the afternoon you are extremely moved by your child, and in the evening you may feel anxious. This is completely normal in the first 3 to 10 days, and almost all women experience this.
Und das verspüren fast alle Frauen. Falls es aber länger anhalten soll.
But if it lasts longer than the 10 days, you suddenly feel increasingly sad or have strong fears or images that you can't get rid of, then you definitely need to talk to your midwife or gynecologist about it. There is also a separate video on this situation on the topic of mental health in the general section. After 6 to 8 weeks, the period of physical adjustment is complete, and then you will have another checkup appointment with your gynecologist or midwife.
Dort wird die Rückbildung kontrolliert.
They will check your postnatal recovery, and any scars from the birth will be looked at. The topic of contraception after the birth will be discussed. After 8 weeks, your midwife will visit you for the last time. You will, however, not be left alone with your questions after that. Already at the hospital, you will be asked whether they can register with the maternity counseling service. I would definitely take up this offer. I encourage you to ask for and accept help. It's a very special time, a roller coaster of emotions. Take care and enjoy your child.